And so it's super helpful to understand the distinctions between your higher self and your human self, right? And it's that human part of us. We want all the steps. We want to feel safe. We want to feel secure and in control. But when we're talking about our soul, we're talking about this higher part of ourselves, right? We're talking about the part of us that literally has a different perspective on our life, right? It's like the difference between being at the bottom of a mountain and being at the top of the mountain.
Real quick, before we dive into today's episode, I have a free gift for you. In celebration of my new program, Money Magnetics, I'm giving away my Money Magnetics guided meditation. Ooh, say that 5 times fast. To you for free. Every time I do this meditation, I kid you not, if I do it for a few days in a row, money magic seriously happens. It really, really works. I cannot wait to share it with you. You can download it now at kelseyAida.com/MM freebie, MM for Money Magnetics. Find this link in the show notes, and you'll have to send me a message on Instagram to let me know how it goes for you. Enjoy. Hello, hello, beautiful people on the other side of this podcast. Welcome to another fabulous episode of High Vibin' It. We are very excited to be here with you, to be here with our beautiful guest. Oh my gosh, her energy is already radiant. I cannot wait for you to get to know her, absorb her wisdom and her light. Speaking of light, her name is Miss Donna Bond, and she's an igniter of light. That's all I'm going to give you. I'm going to leave the rest a mystery. She's an igniter of light. She's awesome. We're already having so much fun since we hit record. And yeah, we don't know what we're going to talk about today. We're just going to let it flow, honestly. And it's going to be magic and fire and all of the things. So you're welcome and happy Monday if you're listening to this on a Monday. So Donna.
Hello,
Donna.
thank you so much. I think you're looking in the mirror and you're just seeing your own reflection of the light, because both of you are radiant, radiant beings. I'm just so happy to be here with you.
Thank you. You know, they say it takes one to know one. So
if you are loving this love fest now, just wait, because I know as what usually happens is it always just gets better and better. And even when we walk into an episode without having like a top, like we know your work a little bit, we know a little bit about you. And I know you're going to explain to anyone who doesn't know what you do, exactly what you do and how you got into this work. But even when we don't have like a pinpoint topic, even when we do, we never stay on topic, but even when we don't, it always ends up being hopefully exactly what people need to hear. So I am very excited. So without further ado, Miss Donna, how did you get into this work and what is the work? An igniter of light. I want to know more.
Yeah, well, Lindsay, I just want to say something about what you just said. Your intention, even though maybe you're not holding it as an intention, but that people are hearing exactly what they need to hear at the time that they need to hear it. When I wrote my book, I sat and blessed every single page of my book with that intention. And that is what I hear the most from people. I get a lot of feedback and comments that people are like, oh my God, I read exactly what I needed to read at the exact time that I needed to read it. And that is clear evidence that spirit is at work. And I just love that. So thank you for saying that.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So I was a corporate marketing executive in hospitality for 28 years. And when I was at the top of my game, I was completely miserable and I was having several health crises. Some of them I knew about at the time and some of them I didn't. And on the advice of a psychic, I enrolled myself in a master's program in spiritual psychology, which was outlandish, right? Because I was working a 60-hour-a-week, very prominent, corporate role as an executive. And it really made no sense at all whatsoever in my life that I was enrolling in this program at the University of Santa Monica, by the way, which I'm sure that you ladies have heard of. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I see them. Yes, you must have friends there. I would assume.
Well, we're both from California, kind of, in a way.
Sort of, in a way.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I think I looked into this. When you say spiritual psychology course, yeah, I definitely have some bookmarks in my browser, I believe from University of Santa Monica in that program. So it is, when you said that, I was like, is that the same? I think it is. I think it's the same program. Interesting. Maybe this is my sign, guys.
Maybe. Well,
Maybe.
they're no longer facilitating.
Oh, this is how long I wait. This is how long I wait to do stuff. It's not even doing it anymore.
A masterful program, which is called Soul-Centered Living.
Oh,
so check it out at universityofsantamonica.edu. All the info is there. But I enrolled myself in this program really having no idea that I would go on to do what I am now doing in the world. And the program changed my life in every possible way because, it's a journey into yourself, and it's a journey into the connection to your higher self, to your soul. And I effectively changed my entire life from the inside out, because as I was experiencing all of these inner shifts, these huge mindset shifts, and these giant, dismantling of old belief structures, I then began taking steps in the physical world and ended up walking away, stepping down from a very prominent position with the Ritz-Carlton, who I was working with at the time, and finding my way into coaching using spiritual psychology as my modality.
Cool. Also, I love that it like all was initiated by the psychic, because you never know.
Right?
Talking to the right person can just set you on a whole new trajectory, and you never know when it's gonna happen.
Yes.
She said to me, Donna, your guides are spelling it out for me. Spiritual psychology. And at the time I was like, what in the hell is spiritual psychology?
Oh my
That
God.
is epic.
I really do love that. And I want to talk just a little bit about the difficulty that you must have felt, and that it is funny because I actually do have a theme with my clients right now where they say yes to doing the inner work, the hypnotherapy, and like the getting to know themselves and reconnecting. And even before we start working together, stuff starts to happen. And I'm explaining to them like, well, yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you say yes to something that you should do and something you're supposed to do. But on the flip side, when you say yes to leaving something behind that no longer serves you, it can be, and that's another theme. I have a lot of a few clients that are going through that moment of like, I know this is not a fit for me. That's terrifying because that's the road I planned for myself. That's the path that I set for myself. So can we talk a little bit about your journey to really coming to terms with being okay walking away from that? I mean, it's easier for some than others. And I just want to talk about that struggle because it's a doozy. It really is.
It is a doozy.
Tell us about the ego deaths involved in this transition.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been doing this now since 2013, and they don't really stop, the ego deaths. I mean, I hate to break it to you, right? As long as we're in these bodies. Spent the weekend actually at the University of Santa Monica going through a workshop with them, and had another one. I've like moved here to Costa Rica and I've become unrecognizable to myself. Truly, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Gosh, where do I even start? So I think one of the biggest opportunities, and why people need coaches and hypnotherapists and beautiful intuitive guides who have walked a path like this, is because we're all walking around with a framework that doesn't really allow for the possibility and the potential of what can occur.
Yeah.
So the first thing that has to happen is, like, I hate to use the word confrontation, but it's this inner confrontation with what are the things that are limiting us. And it's getting really clear about that. And then it's deciding and supporting ourselves through rebuilding that? And how do I rebuild that in such a way that I can live into it? And you guys know, you've been doing it long enough now, right? That our beliefs really do create our world, period. Our beliefs really do create our world. And so the more we lean into these new beliefs of possibility, the more the universe starts lining things up for us on our behalf. I like to say you can hang up the how, because when we get really clear on the vision of what we want, and then we take small steps in that direction, we don't have to really know how. The universe is going to fill in the blanks for
Even
us.
if you think you do, it's probably not going to be that way. Like, chances are what you're thinking is the path or the way to get the thing is going to be so much different. Everything in my life has turned out differently than I thought it would, but so much better. Like, this was the dream I never knew that I had and that I wanted. I was thinking so small because God bless us, we're humans. Like, we can't comprehend the magnitude of what's possible for us, really. So I just think leaving space to be open and allowing. And I love that you said hang up the how, because we just had a podcast episode about manifesting, particularly abundance and money, and how you can't try to plan it. I mean, you can, but it's going to kill you and it's not going to feel good. And you're probably not going to get what you want anyway. But I think that for one client in particular, and if you're listening, shout out to you, but she discovered that the reasons why she was going down the path she thought was the right path were all wrong. The reasons, it turned out, the ends did not justify the means, because she was kind of motivated by this need to feel worthy, need to please others, need to make it okay, to make herself okay. And so she was going down this path, and she realized that she was doing it, not even necessarily how to change it, but just that was her motivation. And so when we can uncover that why, and what is your motivation for wanting the thing, do you really even want it? And that's a whole other onion to peel, because now we have to build from within, and we always should anyway, but now it's like that building from within of like, if you know that you are worthy, if you know that you get to have what you want changes, doesn't it?
Right. Beautiful. Love that. Yeah.
Did you find that was sort of for you as well? Like in the corporate world, like this is just what you should do. This is what people do, right?
100%. And to your point, it never really works out the way that you think it's going to work out, because when I originally stepped down from my role, what I knew was that I couldn't do that anymore. Like, I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I was a year into my master's program, and at this time, a year into the program, I had no clue that I was going to go on to be a spiritual teacher.
Did you imagine if somebody told you, like, guess what you're going to be doing?
Yeah. Listen, the first time it ever came out of my mouth, I was like, wait a minute, who just said that?
Yeah.
Like, it was a shocker. I got to tell you, it was a shocker. So when I stepped down, I hung out a shingle as a marketing consultant, because that made sense. That was what I could do with what I had from where I was.
Yep.
That made a little bit of sense to my ego mind
than just saying,
definitely,
I'm a witch now.
100%. And this is where people get hung up. And, you know, to your point about it, it's never going to work out the way that you think. If we can hold for, okay, universe, I want this or something even better.
This or something
like,
better.
The highest good. This or something better. You know, that's like a nice disclaimer for the universe. But the in here is that you have to kind of do it with no attachment.
Yes. Oh my God, we need to talk about that. That is the hardest piece for so many people, because if you want it, there's automatically attachment, or so we believe that if I don't attach to it, then I must not want it, or that's the message I'm sending. So let's dive in. Go ahead, you go, because I'm so excited.
Yeah. So if we're going to release our attachment, it becomes a trust walk. And here's, I guess, and how I teach and what I teach. And I really help empower, your highest self on your human journey. And so it's super helpful to understand the distinctions between your higher self and your human self, right? And it's that human part of us. We want all the steps. We want to know, how long is it going to take? What's the return on the investment? You know, what's the exit strategy? Like, I got to know all the things. And that is the nature of our ego. That's the nature of our personality and our mind. We want to feel safe. We want to feel secure and in control. But when we're talking about our soul, we're talking about this higher part of ourselves, right? We're talking about the part of us that literally has a different perspective on our life, right? It's like the difference between being at the bottom of a mountain and being at the top of the mountain. The ego is at the bottom of the mountain. It can't see, but your soul that gives you these hints of these whims or these crazy ideas that hit you when you're like relaxed in the shower, or these secret little loves and inspirations that you have that like trickle into your consciousness. And then our ego is like, oh, that'll never happen. Let me squash that right here and now. But what we have to recognize is that that higher part of ourselves can see something that we can't see down here, sort of boots on the ground, right? So it's a trust walk. It's a trust walk. It's like, this is where we like put our money where our mouth is. Like, do you really believe in the universe? Do you really believe in divine intervention? Do you really believe in a higher power?
Word.
Yes, we do over here on High Vibe.
Amen.
But it is difficult, and I think that it's important to remind ourselves that, for me at least, it's important to remind myself of all the evidence of when it worked out, because I got to see it. You know, I need the sign 3 or 4 times, and then I need to be slapped in the face by the universe, because I need to remember. When I need to remember, I don't remember, but I'm getting better at that. I just think that for us evidence seekers, think back at something. Think back at all the times it's worked out so much better. Think back at all the times you thought it wouldn't, but it did. And it had nothing to do with you necessarily. It was always, you're just being taken care of. And when you can remember that, it maybe becomes easier to remind yourself in the hard moments, nope, remember, you're being taken care of. Everything's fine. Just get back into, trusting, get back into allowing. And things do seem easier when you're able to do that, for sure.
I love playing that game. I'll just be like, let me think of all the things I once wanted and now I have. Boom, 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 boom.
Ah,
Damn, I'm on fire. And then I feel powered again.
The other thing that I think is super helpful is to remember that we're not smarter than the universe.
No.
True.
We are not smarter than the universe. And when we think that we are, we're limiting our thinking.
Yeah. Right. Because how can you be smarter than the whole when you're just a fractal, right? I mean, you have some perspective, but not all the perspective, because you're not all perspectives.
I'm going to use that on my 7-year-old. How can you be smarter than the whole? Because you're just a fractal of the mama. Okay. You can't be. Except he actually is. I think he is smarter than me. I just will never admit it. He's so smart, you guys. Anyway.
Yeah, because he hasn't fallen asleep yet, right? Like between 0 and 7, the veil hasn't fully dropped.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't. I don't know, Kels, what do you think? Is he ever going to go to sleep fully?
Everybody does to some degree, but then you'll wake back up. He'll wake back up.
Not with me as his mama and be like, hey, keep them eyes open, kid.
No sleeping for you.
No
Not even a nap.
No, it's part of it. It's part of it.
Yeah,
Truly.
yeah, rediscovering.
But, a lot of the people your age are coming in awake because they're here to change the world.
True.
I think what I can't remember. Do you remember Indigo Children? Pretty sure that's what they call people my age now. And now there's Crystalline, and then what's the other one? What's the newest one? Something like, it's not Crystalline. It's one that, if anybody knows, please tell me. I forgot. But it's like there's Indigo and then Crystalline, and then the Crystallines will have like the next one. I can't remember what it's called, but every generation, every child, I think, comes in a little bit more awake than their parents could be, than their parents are
Totally.
capable of being, because the world is waking up.
Yeah. And what's happening is now, like people like yourself who have held a higher consciousness are now birthing children that are naturally in that higher consciousness. And they're going to grow up to birth children that are in. So
Yeah.
it's like, that's how evolution happens.
Yep.
I'm
Ooh,
calling.
I'm excited to see where we're going. And then at the same time, I'm very, very sad to hear about what we're going. It depends on the day. I'm like, I don't know, guys. Just don't turn the news on. But other than that, humans doing great, I guess.
I'm calling these new babies that are coming in, like a lot of our friends are starting to have kids now. I'm calling them the Aquarius babies, not because they're all Aquarius, such as myself. Shout out to all the Aquarians out there, but because I feel that they're here to really help usher in the age of Aquarius as we like move through this crazy time in history and everything's changing and like dissolving and being rebirthed so fast. I feel like anyone who's coming in at this time is like with a hardcore purpose of like, oh yeah, we're doing it. It's time. So I just feel that from all the new babies. And I'm just like, oh, these little Aquarius babies here to usher in heaven on earth. Hardcore souls. Come on in.
Okay, I'm pretty I just looked it up. I'm pretty sure it's indigo, crystalline, and now star children. These are just names anyway, but I think it does hold a, depending on the kid, it does anything. Yeah.
So Donna, before we started recording, you were asking about our human designs and our enneagrams. So are you like a human design expert or fan, or what's your relationship to human design and the enneagram? Because well, we really appreciate and like both. And it's funny because the salon where I work at, they're obsessed with the enneagram. Like anytime a new girl comes on, they're like, oh, what's your enneagram? And then like, oh, such and such's mom's enneagram is this. And they're like literally know everyone's enneagram. It's super funny. But I'm wondering, like, is that something you use in your practice and your daily life and with your friends and family? Like, tell us more.
I use the Enneagram with all my clients, you know, as part of their intake. And it has effectively shaved off 6 months of coaching that they would otherwise need, because I look at the Enneagram as this beautiful way to see your Earth School curriculum. This is like, here is your shit, right? Like, here is what you're here to heal and to grow through. And the Enneagram is such a beautiful interwoven myriad of mystical, magical information, right, on so many levels. And I was actually introduced to the Enneagram through Dr. Robert Holden. And I love it because it's super helpful in understanding what are the key issues, you know, what are the core pain points that this person is working with in their consciousness. So I love it. I love the Enneagram. But I'm kind of a gene key freak. Like,
Nice.
I love the gene key. I mean, the book is next to my bed. And I think that Richard Rudd is a luminary of our time. And I marvel at the gene keys, which I never really got into human design. I know of human design because of the gene keys, right? Because of the layering of the I Ching and human design and astrology. But the gene keys are so brilliant in understanding these archetypal journeys that we make from the shadow aspect to the highest aspect of the patterns that we hold inside of us. And I am just
I don't think I know my gene key.
And fascinated.
Do you know your
so
gene
there's
key, Kelsey?
12. Yeah, there's 12 gene keys. And so it can be quite intense, and it's quite a journey to contemplate your gene keys. But each key on the map, each positioning has a meaning. And so it's like understanding the positioning of each key. And then each key holds a shadow, a gift, and then something that's called the Siddhi, Siddhi, which is a Sanskrit word, which is like the highest aspect of something, the entelechy of the gene key. And that too is just a fascinating lens to look at or to look through to understand the hero's journey that we're all making. Like what are we here to grow through? What are the core themes of our life's journey that we've come here to learn? And, you know, I should have said this earlier, but the basis of spiritual psychology is being able to view everything that's happening in our life as an opportunity for our growth and learning. That everything that happens, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I'm from Connecticut originally, so I say the super wicked ugly, it's all for us. It's all designed as a stepping stone to our next level of evolution. And when we can begin to view it that way, we immediately take ourselves out of victim mode, and we move from life is happening to me to the awareness that life is happening through me and for me.
Wow.
Well said.
I just while you were dropping that knowledge, I just figured out there's three categories or something on the gene keys, the hologenic profile. It's not the full thing, but genius, love, and prosperity were the things that came up for me, which I'll take it. Relationships, it says, are my biggest challenge. Kelsey,
I don't remember my gene keys. I know I've like done them before, but I'm gonna have to dive into those again today because now I'm like, spark of curiosity has been lit once again.
And this isn't the first time somebody's brought up gene keys and the importance of them. I don't know why it's not more talked about, because it's not one of the ones that's like human design. It's not all the rave as the other ones are, at least not in my awareness. I know human design has been talked about extensively, as well as, you know, obviously astrology and all those sorts of things. Enneagram, definitely. Gene keys I've maybe heard once or twice, but it is intriguing and I would like to look into it more, because I think any type of practice that can help you learn more about yourself and feels true is something you should look into and run with. You know, try out all of them, guys. See what works, see what you like the best, and go with it, because it's all, I really truly feel like everybody's here to just learn themselves. Just learn yourself. You are freaking unstoppable if you can know yourself. That's our superpower. We just need to figure it out and unlock it, you know? And it's a process. Like, I don't know myself completely. I'm really been practicing a long time. And I think that everyone on this call right now in this interview can agree that we don't know fully ourselves. It's always a process. When you know yourself fully, it's like, I don't know, you float? Do you float? I don't know. You get superpower? Do you get to teleport? I don't know. I'm hoping that you get to teleport when you start to know yourself fully. But I think it's a practice for everybody, but it's a fun one if you're willing to look at stuff and you're willing to ask yourself questions. I think it can be very enjoyable. Who doesn't want to know more about themselves, right?
Yeah. And it's a process, and it is a process that will continue until the day we die. It's just a matter of how much awareness we bring to the process.
Because every new situation, every new person you meet will teach you something about yourself if you let it. If you let it.
Speaking of, I have to selfishly ask, what is your advice to the Enneagram 3s of the world? Is it 3? The achiever one? Or was it, what was the number that's attached to that? I can't remember. Okay, that's what I thought. Shout out to all the 3s.
Slow down and smell the roses.
Oh yeah, that is tough.
Slow down and smell the roses. It's the type 3 on the Enneagram is always pushing the goal line out. And it's like, oh yeah, I'll go on vacation after I fill in the blanks, or, you know, I'm going to relax after I fill in the blanks. And then you get to the fill in the blanks and you're like, oh, but wait, now I got to do this. And then you like have another goal that you're going to go after. And so that becomes this perpetual motion. And you girls are young, you have a lot of energy, you're going to keep going. You're like in these amazing career building years that you're in right now. And you're going to wake up one day and you're going to go, holy shit, I just turned 55. Remember when we had Donna Bond on our podcast and she was 55 and we were like, oh my God, she's so old. That's going to happen. And then you're going to say, what happened in my life?
Yeah.
Yeah. So our life is comprised of all of these individual moments that are unfolding in front of us. And for the achiever type on the enneagram, really savoring those moments and like being here now, as Ram Dass said, be here now is one of the opportunities for that type.
Hey there, we hope you're enjoying this episode so far, but if you want to listen to the whole thing, we're going to invite you over to our podcast. Either search for High Vibing It on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you guys listen to podcasts, or even better, if you want to watch the extended video version of this episode that's even longer than the actual podcast itself, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/highvibe. Lindsay, tell them what's awesome about the Patreon.
Patreon is where we have all of our extended episodes. As Kelsey said, we have it on video, so you can actually see the things that we're talking about. Sometimes we have visual aids, and it's nice to know what we're talking about. We also have hangouts that we do sometimes that are exclusive to Patreon people. And you can get started with all of this and bonus content and everything that we have only for the Patreon people for as little as $3. I think it's $3.33 a month. And that's it. And you guys can get all the benefits and all access to everything that we put in there. Really cool.
It's really cool, really fun, super easy to join. And you guys don't even have to do that to finish this episode. If you're like, screw it, I don't want to pay any money, I just want to hear the rest of this episode, go to our podcast, High Vibing It, search for it wherever you listen. It's totally free. Either way, enjoy the rest of the show wherever you choose to enjoy it. And we will see you guys next week because we do a new one every week. Adios.
Bye.